Sorry, technical difficulty. There we go. Okay, hi, welcome everybody. This workshop is called Creative Holiday Activities to Honor Your Loved Ones. So I'm going to be getting started now. We've waited a few minutes so people can start hopping on. My name is Karina, and feel free to introduce yourself in the chat if that feels right for you. Okay, so let's get started. As I said, my name is Karina. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the program and training coordinator here at the Children's Bereavement Center. And in this session, we're going to be discovering ways to honor our loved ones during the holidays, as well as finding different creative activities that we can engage in that celebrate cherished moments and foster connection and work during this special season that is really difficult for a lot of people. So I wanted to start off by opening up to the group. If you can type in the chat or feel free to unmute yourself to answer this question. How are you going to be honoring your loved ones during this season? Yes, Amia, is that how you pronounce your name? Amaya?
It's pronounced Amaya, but
Amaya.
hello everyone. Just to introduce myself, one way I'll be honoring my dad this season is just maybe just doing the things that he liked necessarily.
Mhm.
I'm kind of new to this, so we'll see, but I don't want to like claim sadness on any holiday, so
Okay.
just find something.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that.
Say your name.
Hi, I'm Landon.
Hi.
Are you gonna do? What are you gonna do to?
I am going to make chocolate cake for my dad
Ooh, chocolate cake's delicious.
Why are you gonna make chocolate cake?
because he used to love chocolate cake.
That's great, Landon. Thank you for sharing that. I hope you enjoy the chocolate cake that you end up making.
Okay.
I see in the chat that Giselle said making their favorite food. I personally am also going to be engaging in making my loved ones' favorite foods for the holidays. We have a lot of chocolate cake over here. Amanda also said in the chat that she's going to be eating her grandmother's favorite dessert, which is also chocolate cake. So, Landon, you and Amanda can bond over the chocolate cake there. Okay, well, thank you everyone for sharing. I really appreciate that. I think you're all honoring your loved ones in beautiful ways. Okay, so to start off this presentation, I kind of want to talk about the importance of continuing these bonds with our loved ones during the holiday. So, like, why is it important for us to be maintaining these relationships with our loved ones that have passed away? So these are some kind of main ideas of why it's important. So maintaining attachment, create acceptance, acknowledge ongoing grief, and it's crucial for healing. So for maintaining attachment, research shows that grieving individuals um, display separation distress. So when we are grieving, we tend to feel some anxiety from separation from that loved one. So that can come up as an urge to search for that person who passed away. So, for example, they may want to visit places where the deceased formerly frequented, as though they might be found, or they may have a tendency to see loved ones' faces pop up in crowds, mistake sounds for the deceased person's voice or footsteps, or just kind of try to find their loved one in places that they might be. This reflects that the people have a need to maintain attachment to their loved ones after they've died. So continuing ties to loved ones is really important, and it's really normal and healthy aspect of the grieving experience. So rather than assuming that detaching from your loved one is the way to go with your grief, or that's a normal grief outcome, continuing bonds is it considers natural human attachment as the norm even after death. So after the loved one has passed away, we view it as normal to want to continue those relationships and bonds with that loved one. For creating acceptance, sometimes ideas of acceptance, closure, reinvestment of energy, and embarking on a new life can rub people the wrong way. It may feel like you've forgotten about or even betrayed your loved one if you reinvest your energy in a new life. In fact, people don't move on from grief, but they move forward. So they don't move on or compartmentalize their loved one's memory. Rather, when a loved one dies, people slowly find ways to adjust and redefine their relationships with that person, allowing for a continued bond with that person that will endure in different ways and to varying degrees throughout their life. So that chapter hasn't really closed with that loved one. It evolves and it grows into a different way. As for acknowledging ongoing grief, we view acknowledging ongoing grief as really important. Here we can remind ourselves that we are still in a grieving process and this process is our own. So by acknowledging our ongoing grief, we can normalize it and develop an understanding of grief as non-linear. It's a roller coaster while you're grieving. It's not all up or all down. It's pretty much fluctuating. So some days will be better than others. And that being said, continuing bonds during the holidays is really crucial for healing. Research shows that remaining connected seems to facilitate the bereaved individual's ability to cope with loss and accompanying changes in their lives. So loss can look in so many different ways. It's not only losing the person, but other aspects of your life, other losses that you might feel. So acknowledging the grief and your grieving process is really important in your healing process of kind of normalizing it as a process rather than something that just happens and a step that you should be feeling better or whatever judgments might be coming up for you. Also, if you have any questions while I'm speaking, please feel free to write them in the chat because I know it might be a lot of information, so I don't want to lose any of you while I'm talking. Okay, so the healing power of commemorative activities. Here are some examples of how that can be healing. The healing power of these activities allow us to express emotions, increase resilience, cultivate joy, and boost well-being. A famous psychologist called Carl Rogers believes that individuals have an innate capacity to overcome difficulties and thrive. And creativity is a key main strength to that innate capacity. It strengthens that capacity for us to continue to grow and overcome those difficulties, which I think is very important in the grieving process. Okay, so this slide is talking about self-reflection of feelings and why is it important? Self-reflection of feelings is important because of awareness. It gives us a safe space and self-compassion. So it allows us to create meanings, bring closure and comfort, foster family connections, and memorialize legacies. Research shows that families described commemorative activities as representing a legacy of their loved one. They indicated that the activities were symbolic of the care their loved one received, validating the sentiment that their loved one was remembered. They also feel less alone during their time of grief. The process of co-creating the art pieces with family members, such as reminiscing, storytelling, and creativity, facilitates healing through creating connections and resonating with memories of loved ones. So here you can see some of the steps for self-reflection of feelings. That would be paying attention to your affective components, so like how you're feeling. Pay attention to your body sensations, so the sensory experiences that go with the emotions that you're feeling, and then naming the feelings to yourself. So asking yourself, what am I feeling? How does it feel to be feeling this emotion? This, I think, is a really important tool to use when you're reflecting your feelings. It's called the feelings wheel. It breaks down the more basic emotions such as love, fear, anger, sadness, happiness, surprise, and disgust into subcategories and kind of gives people more language to describe their emotions. It helps process the pain of grief and kind of give you a name to make sense of your emotions. It lets you feel your emotions rather than trying to bury them by giving a name of this is how I'm feeling right now. And it helps us kind of make sense of the emotion when we allow ourselves to kind of have some verbiage to go with that emotion. Okay, so this is an activity. This is one of the activities that we're going to be doing today. So if you have with you, if you don't, please get a piece of paper, a pencil, really anything to write with, or color pencils, whatever you like. Essentially, you just need paper and something to write with. This activity is the memory candle. So what you're going to be doing, and you'll have time to do this, I'm just kind of going to walk you through the steps right now. The instructions are on this slide. You're going to be drawing a candle with the wick, and in the flame, you're going to be writing a memory around the kind of the wick. So in the flame of the candle here, like you can see on the slide, you're going to be writing a memory. So you're going to draw a flame on top of the memory, then write another memory and kind of continue it like that, like in these little layers of a memory here, and then a flame around it, and then another memory, and then another flame like that. As you write and draw your candle and recall those moments and the memories with your loved ones, remember that your memories with your loved ones will always stay alive like a fire that never goes out. So I'm going to be giving everyone around 5-10 minutes to do this activity. And then afterwards, we're going to discuss it. So for right now, while you guys are doing it, I'm going to play some music in the background to kind of help soothe you through the experience. Let me know if you could hear it once I click play. Good? Okay, awesome. Does anyone else need more time? Nope. Okay. So how was this for everyone? How was this activity for you? Good. I see a thumbs up from Landon.
It's hard for me.
Hard.
Yeah, because eh, I feel a little sad about the memories.
Yeah.
Good
Thank you.
memory, but it's
Mhm.
sad.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's a pretty natural reaction for remembering some of these memories. It could be kind of bittersweet of remembering some of the good things, but also bringing up some of those sadness and those types of emotions. Okay, thank you for letting us know, Amaya. Yeah, it seems like a lot of you had some difficulty with this activity and kind of reflecting back on it. I think again, I just want to normalize a lot of the emotions that some of you are feeling, especially if the loss is recent, and not even if the loss is recent. Those emotions can come out at any point during your grieving process. But I really just want to thank everybody for participating in it and kind of reflecting on those memories with those loved ones, even if it was a little bit difficult for you to do in those moments. Okay, I'm glad to know it was helpful for you. This is an activity that you can kind of keep in your back pocket of maybe something to look back on, something to practice when you're feeling any emotions, and just kind of having it in the back of your mind as an activity that you could practice at different points during your healing and grieving process. Thank you so much to everybody for participating. I really appreciate that and all of your feedback on it. Okay. Okay. The next activity, and though we're not going to be doing this now, it is a family activity to honor some loved ones, and it's a memory box. So a memory box can be useful for either children or adults to help keep memories alive for the loved ones who've passed away. So how do you create a memory box? You can decorate the box, you can fill the box with different memories, anything that reminds you of the loved one. You can write stories and put it in them, and it also helps process some of the feelings that you might maybe be feeling. You can fill your box with photos, mementos, anything that holds special meanings up to you for your loved ones. You can utilize some questions and encouraging phrases to help process some emotions and elicit some of the stories behind each of the objects in the box. So you can really just use this box for whatever you think might be helpful for your process and kind of reflect on why some of the objects that you're putting in the box are meaningful for you. So I would like to share this video with you. And even though it is directed towards children, it is a Sesame Street video, but it is an example of creating a memory box in a really digestible way. So it might be helpful to just conceptualize the idea of a memory box a little bit more.
Hello, Elmo's cousin Jessie. Hello there, Elmo. Oh, what you doing? Oh, well, I'm looking through my memory box. After my dad died, well, I started keeping special things in here that remind me of him. Do you want to see? Well, sure. Okay. Well, see, I've got some drawings that I made for him, and there's some fun tickets from things that we used to do together. Oh, and there's some letters, too. Oh, and Uncle Jack's tie. Yeah, that was his favorite. Boy, this box has so many great memories in it, Jessie. Yeah, I know. I just don't want to ever forget my dad. And, well, looking at these things helps me to remember him. And does that make Jessie feel better? Yeah, some days it really does. Oh, good. Well, that's how Elmo feels when he looks at the pictures of Uncle Jack, too, like this one. Yeah? Oh, yeah. That is a great one of him. Hey, Jessie. Why don't you put this in your memory box? Are you sure? Oh, yeah. Elmo wants Jessie to have it. Oh, thanks, Elmo. This is really going to help me remember my dad. Yeah.
For more information on when families grieve, visit sesameworkshop.org/grief.
Okay. So as you can see, this is something that really anyone can use to help process some of those memories that you have associated with your loved ones. And I hope you find it helpful for at some point that you might be able to use it. Okay. So here are some examples of other activities. So if none of the activities we've done so far have been helpful for you, or you don't see yourself using them, these are just some other commemorative activity examples. So one of them could be using visual arts to help with your grieving process and help process your emotions. So this could be making a photo collage, a scrapbook. Maybe you could display this collage and have your friends and family members write their favorite memories in it. You can do a wall of memories, a painting, a drawing. You can color. I know a lot of those like mandala coloring books, people find them really soothing and kind of meditative when you're drawing or coloring. You can do some special decorations during the holiday season to commemorate your loved one. Memorial garden and really any crafting activities might be useful. You could also use music and dance. You can create a playlist, which is something that we're going to be doing towards the end of this presentation. It's just an example. You can create a dance to commemorate your loved one to maybe their favorite song, to a song that reminds you of them. Create a video, write a song. Home and nature is another category of activities. So you can take a tour of the park or maybe one of their favorite places to go, plan a meal dedicated to them, light a candle for them. You can maintain a memorial light or candle, which is kind of a special way to memorialize the person you've lost. Whether you decide to light a candle every night or eat your loved one's favorite food, kind of like planning that meal. Honoring your loved one can serve as a tangible reminder that although they're gone, that their memories will continue. You can kind of incorporate little ways to remember them throughout your day. So one thing that I wanted to talk about is cultural sensitivity, and our steps for understanding cultural differences in grieving and bereavement. Grief can look so different for so many different people, regardless of culture. You can be from the same cultural background as someone and grieve completely differently than them. Everyone's process is very individual, but specifically with culture, especially around the holidays, that so many different cultures celebrate different holidays, it might be tricky to kind of understand somebody's grief if it doesn't look the same as yours. So here you can ask questions, ask openly when you're unsure what would be helpful for a family or an individual, both in terms of a death of the loved one or holiday traditions, and kind of relating to them through asking questions if you're unsure. So, for example, you can ask them, can you tell me how your family and your culture recognizes and copes with the death of a family member? How does this fit with your own preference at the time? Just kind of asking and seeking from that other person what would be more helpful for them and what their grief looks like for them. Another question, can you help me understand how I can be best of help to you and your family? You can ask about holiday traditions and which holiday traditions did the loved one love the most and how can you honor them? The second piece to this is very important to watch out for assumptions and be aware of your own biases. Even if you know about some of the common practices of culture, this may not accurately portray or predict how others will act in terms of loss and the holiday specifically. So again, this kind of goes back to the asking questions piece and how important that is to not assume or use your bias to guide you about somebody's cultural expectations during their grieving process. Another piece that we think is very important is being present and authentic. So even if you don't know about a particular culture, try to approach it with an open mind and heart to learn about how others memorialize their loved ones and how they celebrate their holidays. So even if it's completely different from how you celebrate and how you grieve and how you view it, try to approach it with an open heart and an open mind to really understand and assist the other person through their process. All individual experiences are influenced and perceived through the lens of their cultures. So they're very unique. There are social pieces of it, the cultures, the spiritual aspects of it, all impact their grieving process. So it's really different for individuals according to those factors of their culture, their family backgrounds, their religious beliefs, exposure to loss in different aspects. All of these traditions and everything can really be influenced by each individual's experiences. So again, about not using assumption biases, because their process of grief could be very, very different from what you might assume it to be. Social messages often focus on fixing grief and rushing the process without taking into consideration a person's culture, which some of you may have seen before or have noticed in your own processes. So a way to help guide conversations surrounding grief and obtaining a better perspective of where a person may find themselves mentally and emotionally is again to ask questions and actively listen. So there's a question here that I have that it might be something for you to ponder, or if you want to write an answer to it in the chat or out loud, you could feel free to do so. But our questions are, what does honoring a loved one look like in your culture specifically? Or what are some commemorative activities your family does during the holidays? So again, feel free to unmute, write in the chat, or even just think about it if you don't feel comfortable sharing. Okay, if Noah feels comfortable sharing, that is completely okay. I'll just move on to the next slide, but it might be something to just think about when you're reflecting on your own culture and the culture of other people that have also experienced loss. So that being said about culture and that piece of grief and how everybody experiences grief differently, the same goes for individuals with different abilities, such as neurodivergent individuals. So neurodivergence is a term for people whose brains function differently in one or more ways that is not that is considered standard or typical. So another word for neurodivergence is neurotypical. Neurotypical is the non-neurodivergent. There are many ways that neurodivergence manifests, which ranges from very mild and ways that many people wouldn't notice that they're neurodivergent, to other more extreme and obvious ways that leads them to behave a bit differently than what our standard of society may say or may call it. So some common types of neurodivergence that you may be aware of or unaware of are autism, ADHD, dyslexia, Tourette's syndrome, Down syndrome, epilepsy, certain chronic mental health illnesses such as bipolar disorder, OCD, borderline, anxiety, depression. These kind of all fall into the lines of some form of neurodivergence. So neurodivergent children specifically, or adults as well, may express and process grief differently to neurotypical children and adults. So it doesn't mean it's wrong. It just may look really different from how neurotypical people may be experiencing their emotions and processing their grief. Many people with autism relax their facial features when their mind is busy. Their eye contact can be distracting. They may be looking away. This could be a sign that they're overwhelmed or overthinking. And their family may try to understand their expressions. They may appear apathetic or rigid. And when this is happening, adults should encourage their children to engage in family activities like putting a star on the tree, but at the same time, not push them. So essentially, here again is talking about how even though somebody is neurodivergent and their presentation of grief during the holidays too may be a little bit different than what a neurotypical expression of grief is, it doesn't mean that they're grieving any less. It just means that they have different needs in the moments to process their grief, and it may be more difficult for them to express those needs. So just for us to be aware of that, and not push them into activities or processing their grief in a way that might not be beneficial to them, that is beneficial to us. Okay, so this is the last activity that I have, and this is a grief playlist. So I'm also going to give this around, depending on how much time we have, like 5 or 10 minutes. It's another activity that you can use, and I wanted for us to do it tonight. A grief playlist can help people who are grieving connect to their emotions and use that time to remember and honor their loved one. So your grief playlist can include really any of these examples above. So your loved one's favorite song, a song that you shared with them, a song that reminds you of them, songs that match your current emotions, songs that comfort you, songs that can help you get through the day. There is really no right or wrong way to make this playlist. It's whatever will be most beneficial to you and your grieving process. So here you can remember that you could either keep this playlist to yourself, you could share it with others, you can use it as a discussion point with some of your loved ones and supportive individuals in your life. This grief playlist could really look like anything. It can look like whatever you want it to. And I think that's really important because just like your grief, this playlist is your own and it's really what's going to be most beneficial to you. So I would like to take a few minutes to have us all try making a grief playlist. And in the meantime, I'm going to be playing some music in the background, to, like I did in the other activity, to kind of help soothe us and relax us into it. Please write in the chat whenever you finish so then I can move on to the next slide. Do we need some more time or are we ready to move on? No? Okay, how was this activity for everybody? You liked it? Soothing. I think the music also really helps it feel a little bit more soothing. Could we share maybe some of the songs, if you're comfortable, that we put on our playlist? Somewhere Over the Rainbow, beautiful song. I'm Like a Bird. I love the imagery there. Okay, well, thank you everybody so much for participating. Dance with my father again. Yeah. Thank you everybody for being so open and sharing some of your songs and enjoying this activity. Again, this is something you can keep on your phone. You can make this playlist, share it with others, whatever works for you at the end of the day. So these are some holiday resources that you could be using. These are some articles that we found. Amanda's going to type them in the chat. So if you want to look into some of these, there's a lot of different holiday resources that specifically surround grief and the grieving process that might be beneficial for you to look over whenever you have the time, or if you want to just see some more tips and more things that you can use to help you through your grieving process. So that being said, I am going to use the last few minutes and pass it over to Amanda to kind of go over the CBC and some of the programs that we offer.
Thank you, Karina. You can go to the next slide. Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda. Nice to see you all. I am the program manager here at the Children's Bereavement Center, and I would love to share with you some information about our grief support groups in case you don't know about them. Our groups are free to everyone, anyone that's age 4 and up. We have groups for children, teenagers, and adults. Our groups are open to anyone who has lost a loved one due to illness, accident, suicide, or homicide. We have our groups held on Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. On Mondays, we have our elementary school group and our middle school group. We also have our child loss group for anyone that have lost a child at any age. It could be a young child or an adult child. And we also have groups on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. We have on Tuesdays our regular adult group, our perinatal and infant loss group, and our high school group. We also have groups on Wednesday. We have our Spanish adult group and our English adult group. We also have twice a month on Wednesdays, our young adult group and our perinatal and infant loss group in Spanish. Our groups are co-facilitated by mental health professionals. We also like to include art and music in all of our groups. And we also have candlelight ceremonies 3 times a year. Our next one will be happening next week on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday in all of our groups. And the candlelighting ceremony is for all of us to honor our loved one and talk about memories and anecdotes so we can learn more about that significant person in your life. You can go to the next slide, Karina. We also have other events, both in person and virtual events in South Florida. We have our Steps for Healing that just happened last month in November. Our next one is on November 23 and 2024. Here we can run and walk in honor of our loved one. We also have our Rockin' event in April. We also have Lunch and Learn. We talk about different grief topics with other experts in the community and nationwide. We have our conversation with CBC like tonight. And we also have community pop-up events in person. We have some pictures here. We have one of our music therapists at the museum, and we love to connect with the community in person and virtually because we really want to support everyone that's grieving. If you can go to the next slide, I will post in the chat. I see that someone asked for the form. I just posted in the chat the link on how to register for the groups. There's no referral required, so anyone can self-enroll whenever they are ready. The death could have happened a year ago or this week. There is no time frame for that. Anyone that would like to join our groups, you can just call our 888 number, or you can just email our support@childbereavement.org, or you can just click that link I have in the chat and it will take you directly to the registration form. When that person completes that registration form, they can start the group that same day or week, or the next week or next month, whenever they prefer. Any questions that I can answer, anything that would be of help to you all? Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank
Happy
you.
holidays, and please take care of yourself.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great night.
Too.
I paused the recording already.
Oh, perfect.